Hi everyone, welcome back to Be Rich. We have been talking about AI and all that's been happening. And of course, there was an interesting article which I read in Financial Times about what's happening inside OpenAI. Outwardly, publicly, they're not saying anything, saying, yes, competition is good. Sam Altman is saying it's good for the ecosystem. It is good for AI as a whole that we have Gemini now and there is some actual competition happening for us in ChatGPT. But internally, he seems to have hit code red and he's telling everyone, boss, please wake up and smell the sauce. Google is not only caught up, it is actually ahead of us. What are we doing? We're going to get into trouble. So please do something. He's saying, and his chief operating officer, other people have come on to X and they're saying things which are rather alarming if you're a ChatGPT investor. Talking about ChatGPT investing, Anthropic came out with an interesting piece of news in Financial Times, which Anand was reading, and he was saying we should definitely talk about this. So I'll let Anand take over and tell us what's happening in Anthropic, and then we'll unpack it post. Yes,
So
Anand.
Anthropy is started by people who left from Sam Altman.
Yes.
So it's a breakaway company.
Yes. They're the famous Claude owners.
Okay. There is I do not know, but they have a chat GPT called Claude.com.
Yeah, Claude.
Yeah.
Their model is called Claude.
And it is slightly different from
It's good.
Altman. I don't think they are using a variation of the different form of
Yes.
LLM.
Yes.
Now they are backed by Google and Amazon.
Hmm.
If ChatGPT is backed by Microsoft, this is backed by Google and Amazon. And they want to go for another funding round. In this funding round, they are valuing themselves at $300 billion.
Yeah, $350 billion.
And Amazon is expected to put $1 billion in this. Amazon and Google have a huge stake in, and Anthropy is one of the first to use the Google TPU,
Yes. The tensor processing.
the tensor processing unit. So they are now they have indirectly talked to a very famous uh,
San Francisco based.
San Francisco based merchant banker who took Google and LinkedIn prior public. And people in the know are saying that a public offering could come as early as 2026. So sometime next year there could be a big bang IPO from Anthropy. What this means is Anthropy is trying to beat Sam Altman to an IPO. And if this boom continues, if he puts a valuation of 500 $600 billion for its IPO, on the day of listing, it can cross one if this boom continues. That
Lots
means,
of ifs.
yeah, but this could be the first stock which will hit $1 trillion on the day of the listing. Now, what for me is two things are strange. One is a billion was a big thing for a long time for me. Now, a trillion seems to be common. There are more than 8 companies which are worth a trillion. And there is one company which touched 5 trillion, that is Nvidia. Soon, you could have several companies which have $5 trillion in place. There is a lot of liquidity sloshing in the market, and Fed in its nervousness has stopped quantitative tightening. What is quantitative tightening? When they did quantitative easing, they bought a lot of bonds. So every month some bond goes off, that it expires, it's finished. So people have to repay and the bond cease to exit.
Correct.
So what Fed was doing is it was allowing the tapering of QE funds. That is the funds that were excess funds that were used
Which were
and
created.
which were created by injecting money to buy bonds. When these bonds are maturing, they are not recreating that money. So the total amount of pool of money is shrinking. This is why Silicon Valley Bank and couple of banks collapsed. So immediately this Federal Reserve started to cut back on the amount of QT, and on December 1st they said they have stopped it completely. Why this is very important is as the Fed cuts rates and stops quantitative tightening, Punch Bowl is back in the center of the place for the party. And the indication that the Punch Bowl is there comes from Anthropy's so-called public issue. So Anthropy thinks it's a great time to go public. People are willing to give obscene amount of valuation. They have strong promoter backings, and they have companies which are very strong and which are backing them. They think they can leverage and do better. So if they hit the public issue, most of the people, entrepreneurs who invested initially, and the venture capitalists who invested later, Google, Amazon, everybody will walk away very wealthy. So whether this IPO comes or not is something we have to see. Because some people within the company are saying it's too early for an IPO and maybe we should not do an IPO at this stage. So it is in a limbo where they have not yet decided whether they'll do an IPO or not, and but whether they are talking up the possibility of an IPO to make sure this funding round is very successful is something to be seen. But what makes this particular Anthropy interesting is it is a three-race horse now. There is a Google, there is Sam Altman, and there's OpenAI, and Anthropy has now joined the race.
Yeah, what Anand was saying off camera before we started recording, which is really interesting, is he's like, this is like playing Texas Hold'em. He's saying you have Sam Altman sitting on the table, you have Google sitting on the table, you have Amazon, Microsoft sitting on the table, and now Google, through Anthropy's holding, is calling him bluff by saying, okay, bhaiya, come, let us see. These are my cards. Let me put it on the table. Right?
And they are not putting their cards.
Yeah, they're putting Anthropy. They're putting Anthropy's cards on the table. He's standing behind Anthropy's shoulder on the table, and he's telling Anthropy, tapping on, put your cards down, man. I'm here, no, I'm bankrolling you. Put it down. Let's see what Altman does, because there's enormous pressure in OpenAI right now. Because, like I said, we've been talking about, Anand, we've been talking about the way on his balance sheet, he's keeping his balance sheet clean. He's made everybody else take on the debt. Oracle is taken on debt. Meta is taken on debt. Everybody is taken on debt on behalf of Sam Altman and OpenAI. He's actually got a $4 billion line of credit which is not even touched. So that's how clean he's kept his balance sheet. So Google is saying, no problem. If everything is so hunky-dory, let us see. Let us put cards on the table and see. And this will definitely set the cat amongst the pigeon. If this IPO comes or not itself, like Anand said, is not important. What he's done is, by just calling it out like this, throwing a spade down on the table, it is going to be some interesting 6 months which will have unfolding.
Because I don't know whether this will force the end of the bubble. We don't know.
Yes. Is he letting some air out of the bubble also? We'll have to see. And maybe we'll get to see where the chips are sitting if things come to fruition.
This could mean that the bubble bursts before the issue comes, or the issue goes through, so the issue crosses the bubble to break. We don't know. But it looks very, very, very scary.
Correct.
That 1 trillion is like pocket change today.
Correct. And in the middle of all this, which is what I'm going to talk with Anand tomorrow, is Trump's own son who launched his own crypto. That is down by 40% in this crypto turmoil. Yes. We may say Bitcoin bounced back and recovered, but we'll have to take another stab at this.
Whatever Trump's family launched, immediately there was a 50% discount.
Correct. And that says a lot, doesn't it? And also all the trouble which is brewing in GDP and debt and in shadow banking is what I want to talk with Anand tomorrow. So do tune in tomorrow when we talk about all that and unpack that with Anand tomorrow. That'll be some fun conversation again. Thanks for being with us on Be Rich today. I hope you found this video informative and entertaining as always. See you tomorrow with another one.
Thank you for supporting Be Rich.